screen. Okay. Hello everyone, welcome to this webinar. Today we are going to focus on communication skills for academic success. This is the second webinar of our series of engagement webinars for this semester. We are really happy that we have three. Did I hear some echoes? Okay. I'm really glad that we have three panelists with us. First of all, my name is Lina Li. I'm the Dean of Graduate Programs. Previously, I was the Dean for College of Business for many years, so I feel really happy to see business students here. Of course, I'm happy to see nursing, IT, psychology, and students from other programs. I will serve as one of the moderators today, and we have Dr. Ashley Roeder to serve as another moderator. Ashley, could you please introduce yourself?
Yes, absolutely. Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Ashley Roeder, and I'm the Associate Dean for the College of Business. I've been here since about 2022, so I'm happy to have you all here today.
Thank you. And I forgot to mention that I have been with Baker since 2008. I really enjoy working with our students. Okay. Now I would like to invite our panelists to introduce themselves. They all are professors at Baker College and they are all communication experts. So I will start with Professor Jill Benigni. Could you?
Hi, my name is Jill Benigni, and I'm an associate professor and program director for mathematics for the Mid and West Michigan campuses and also the online live campus. I've been with Baker College since 2005, and in my experience, clear communication opens doors in academia. So I'm delighted to explore this topic with all of you.
Thank you. Professor Govil.
Hi, my name is Deepti Govil, and I am an associate professor and program director of mathematics for online Royal Oak and Port Huron campuses. I have been with Baker College since 2008 and have loved every moment of being here. I believe effective communication can truly impact academic success, and I'm very excited to be a part of this webinar.
Thank you, Deepti. Dr. LaPointe.
Hello, my name is Renee LaPointe. I've been with Baker since 2022 as a faculty member in the MS-IOP program, or the Masters of Science in Industrial and Organizational Psychology program, all online, primarily teaching asynchronous courses. I'm also a proud Baker alum, having graduated from Baker with my Bachelor in Psychology and Master's in IO Psychology. I'm very excited to participate in this webinar today as we share practical strategies for navigating common communication challenges.
It's wonderful, Renee, that you actually got 2 degrees from Baker College, and now you're coming back, returning your favor to both our students in the psychology program and all our students in this webinar, and hopefully in future webinars, right? Welcome. Okay, so this is our roadmap for today's webinar. First of all, we will briefly discuss why communication skills are important. And then we will go through multiple real-world scenarios in different settings to illustrate good and bad examples of communications. And these settings include communicating with your professors through emails, asking questions in live settings, and peer-to-peer communications for group work, and also engaging effectively on online asynchronous discussion board. Toward the end of this webinar, hopefully everybody will walk away with a few tips that you can use to improve your communication skills. You will also have the chance to ask our panelists questions, and also we will give you a very short survey so that you can tell us how well we did for future improvement. And also, if you choose to leave your contact information, you will get a certificate for participating in this webinar, and a Baker College water bottle, and a Baker sticker that you can put on your water bottle or your laptop or anything else. I would like to remind you that this session is recorded, and later on it will be uploaded to YouTube videos for those who cannot make the live sessions. Okay, so let's talk about why communication matters in academic success. Well, first of all, having good communication skills shows that you're a professional. You have put effort into your work and you are taking your work seriously, right? Every details in your email and the way you ask your questions actually could determine how the other side perceives you. And good communication skills will help to prevent misunderstandings. As you may have realized, many frustrations in academic success or in workplace actually come from unclear expectations or assumptions. But clear, specific, respectful communication will help prevent those to happen. And also, clear, specific communication will help you to get better and helpful feedback from your instructors and from your peers. It also helps you to build good, positive relationships with your instructors, with your academic advisors, with your peers, right? And also, good communication skills can be transferred to workplace immediately. And we can benefit from good communication skills on every aspect of our life. This is why we are having this webinar today. So let's jump into our first setting, email communications with professors. And before I ask the panelists questions, I would like to invite you to do a little poll. If you can choose the biggest challenge you face when you email a professor. Okay, I've seen responses coming in. Can everybody see the results on your screen?
Not just
Oh,
yet.
not yet. Okay, I can see it. Let's give it maybe 20 more seconds.
Okay. We have a lot coming in, so it's fantastic.
Okay. I think we almost have all the responses. Okay. I will end it. Okay. Now can everybody see the results? Okay. As you see, every option got some votes. We are afraid that we don't know what kind of tone should we use, professional or casual or very formal. We worry about bothering our professors. We are not sure how to structure the email. Do we make it very short, very long? We are afraid of looking unprepared. And we probably are afraid of asking for extension or grade reconsideration. So, okay, these are our student perspectives. And now let's switch to our professors' perspectives. Let me ask the panel, what are some common improvement opportunities do you see in student emails? Probably Professor Benigni, you can start.
Thanks, Lena. Well, let's talk a little bit about the overly casual tone. So that's a common pitfall, is using an overly casual tone. So it's great to be friendly, but just remember that your email is a reflection of your personal identity. So to maintain the right balance, let's avoid using slang and emojis or multiple exclamation points, as these can undermine the tone of your message. Instead, aim for a more professional tone and just use clear language and standard greetings like hello or good morning. Next, let's talk about asking questions that are answered in the syllabus. So we often see the issue of students asking questions that are already answered in the syllabus. This can be a significant drain on our time for everybody involved. So before hitting that send button, always do a quick search of your references or your resources. And if you do not see what you're looking for and you need clarification, it's great practice to mention exactly where you looked. And this shows you've done some due diligence and helps the recipient, your instructor, to provide some more targeted and helpful responses.
Yes, in each of our Canvas classes, there is a simple syllabus on the left side of the Canvas shell, and by clicking that, you can see details of your class. And then at the bottom of that document, you will see multiple links, including institutional policies. That is the syllabus items. For example, it includes grading scales and late policies. So you should look at those before asking your instructors questions. Deepti?
Thank you, Lena. One of the most common improvement opportunities I see is that students assume the instructor automatically knows what they're referring to. But most of the times, that is not the case. For example, last semester, I was teaching 3 sections of the same course with 100 some students in all 3 modalities. So if you clearly state the course name and the section, that immediately helps me locate you in the right class. Next, identify the specific assignment or topic. Instead of saying, I have a question on my grade, say, I have a question on module 1 homework, question 4, and so on. That level of specificity saves time and reduces back and forth emails. Another area that's also important is including relevant dates or deadlines, especially if something is time sensitive. It helps the instructor understand urgency without you having to emotionalize it and emphasize it with emotions. So overall, I would say when students provide clear context, communication becomes smoother, quicker, and much more productive.
Thank you, Deepti. Renee.
Yep, thank you. So building on what Jill and Deepti have already shared, first I would say avoid long and unstructured messages. When everything is in one big block of text, it makes it easy for your main point to get lost. And keep in mind, professors are often reading emails in between classes, in between meetings, or even late at night. So being concise and organized is a kindness to your professor. Keeping your message focused on one main purpose and using short paragraphs or even bullet points when you have several questions makes it much easier for them to see what you need and can respond to you more clearly. And then also try to emotional or last minute messages. While it's completely normal to feel stressed or frustrated about deadlines and grades, when that emotion spills directly into the email, it can come across as demanding or unprofessional. Instead, aim for calm, neutral language that takes responsibility for your part in a situation rather than blaming the instructor or the course. And whenever you can, try not to email 5 minutes before something's due. Reaching out earlier gives both you and your professor more options to work with in the end. And so while these might seem like small details, together they really do have a big impact on how your message is received.
That's true, Renee. Thank you. Now let's look at some scenarios. Okay, so our first scenario is that I'm a student and I found that a big assignment is due tonight. I haven't done much about it. I want to ask for an extension from my professor. I don't know how to write such an email. So let's see what we can do.
Okay, so let's take a look at this student email requesting an assignment extension. As an instructor, I see a couple of issues in this email. First, there is no subject line. So the purpose of the email isn't clear immediately to me. Second, look at the tone. The tone is casual and emotional. Like phrases like really crazy or I'm super stressed feel informal for academic communication. Another feeling I get reading this email is that my course isn't important for you because you are so busy with other classes. Last but not the least, there's no course name, assignment title, no due date, which makes it harder for me to respond efficiently. So the situation may be understandable, but the communication needs some improvement. So let's see how this can be handled the right way.
Okay.
So I get to take the good example here. So let's take a look at Jane's email and notice what she's done well here. First, her subject line is specific and clear. It says Math 2750, Section A1, Assignment Extension. So the professor knows immediately what this email is about even before opening it. Next, she gets straight to the point. She states exactly what she needs, a 48-hour extension, and when the assignment is due. Third, she provides a legitimate reason without over-explaining. She mentions having the flu, which is honest and sufficient. She doesn't go into excessive detail or make any excuses. And fourth, and this is important, she demonstrates accountability. She explains what she already completed and proposes a specific new deadline, specifically on Sunday at 5. This shows that she's been working and has a realistic plan And then finally, her tone is professional and respectful throughout the email. She thanks the professor for their time and closes politely. So this email is likely to receive a positive response because Jane has made it easy for the professor to say yes. She's been proactive, clear, and considerate of their time.
I agree with you. She makes it easy for us to consider it and say yes for this situation. Okay, so now let's think about scenario 2. I am a student. I received my grade back for an assignment. It's much lower than what I thought. I'm confused. I'm frustrated. I'm even mad. I want to ask my professor why, and I want to ask them to change my grade to a higher one. How can I do that?
Okay, so let's read this student email. The student begins by saying, I don't think it's fair. This sounds accusatory rather than inquisitive. When communication starts from a place of judgment, it can put the instructor on the defensive. While the effort is important, grading is typically based on demonstrated understanding, not the time you spent studying. So this is not persuasive enough. Phrases like really harsh and fix my grade are emotional and demanding. So if a student wants reconsideration, the most effective approach is to ask for a clarification. The email reflects frustration, which is understandable, but the tone and the wording reduce the likelihood of a positive outcome. So now let's take a look at how small changes in your tone can completely change the response you receive.
Okay.
All right, so now let's look at an example of a better way to inquire about a grade. And this can be a delicate situation, but Alex, the student here, handles it really well, I think. So notice how the email opens with a polite greeting. I hope you're doing well. It's a small touch, but it sets a respectful, collegial tone. Alex is immediately clear about the purpose, asking about the grade on exam 1 in Math 125, section 2. They've included specific details like the exam number, the course, and the section. This helps the professor locate that exam for that student quickly. And here's what really stands out. Alex has done their homework. They say after reviewing the graded exam and the rubric, this shows they've taken some time to understand the grading criteria after reaching out. So they're not just complaining, they're seeking clarification. The request itself is humble and reasonable. Alex asks for the opportunity to better understand where their response fell short and mentions the possibility of reconsideration, but they're not demanding it. So the tone is curious and open, but not confrontational. And then finally, Alex thanks the professor in advance and expresses that they look forward to the feedback. This reinforces that the student values learning and improvement, not just a grade change. So this email is likely to receive a thoughtful response because Alex has approached this situation professionally, they've done their due diligence, and they've maintained that respectful tone throughout.
Correct. This email would work, and the previous one probably will not work. Now I have a sensitive question to ask the panel. Do you think it's okay to use AI to help you to draft your emails?
So I'll take the first couple of bullet points here. So this is kind of a touchy subject, but absolutely you can use AI as a tool to improve your email communication. So AI can be incredibly helpful for polishing your emails. Maybe you've drafted something and you're not quite sure if the tone is quite right, or you want to make sure your message is clear and professional. AI tools can help refine your language, catch errors, suggest improvements. Think of it as a writing assistant that's available to you 24/7. So, however, this is crucial. AI should help with the tone and the clarity, but it does not replace your authentic voice or handle confrontation for you. So what do I mean by that? We use AI to make our writing clearer and more polished, but don't use it to avoid difficult conversations or to craft messages that sound nothing like you. Your professors and peers want to communicate with you, not with a perfectly polished AI persona. So, for example, if you're upset about a grade, don't ask AI to write an aggressive email on your behalf. Instead, draft your thoughts first and then use AI to help you express those feelings more professionally and constructively.
Good point.
I do agree with Professor Benigni, and I would say yes, use AI as a tool, not as a replacement of your voice. Always review and personalize the message before clicking on that send button. Make sure it reflects your actual situation, includes accurate details like course name, assignment, and it sounds like you. Think of AI as a proofreading and tone checking assistant, not as something that writes your message blindly. So, academic or professional communication still requires your judgment.
Thank you, Deepti. Very good advice on AI usage. So now let's look at a few takeaway messages in email communications.
All right, I'll take the first 4 bullet points here. So let's just recap some essential principles that we've covered in this section of the webinar. So again, first, have a clear subject line. This is your email's first impression, so make it specific and informative so the recipient knows what to expect before they even open the message. Next, be clear and specific. Don't make your reader guess what you need or sift through paragraphs to find your main point. State your purpose directly and provide the relevant details like those course numbers and assignment names, dates, those things. Next, use a professional tone. You can be warm and personable without being overly casual. Avoid slang, excessive exclamation points, or language that you wouldn't use face-to-face meeting with your professor. And then fourth, state your purpose early. Don't bury your request in the third paragraph. Lead with what you need, then provide context and supporting details. Respect your reader's time by getting to the point quickly, and you'll get a good, quick response from that.
I'll take the next few. Ask, don't demand. A request framed respectfully is much more likely to receive a positive response. Next, focus on understanding, not blame. Instead of saying, this isn't fair, try saying, can you help me understand where I lost points? Another thing, keep it concise and organized. Long emotional emails can dilute your main point. And finally, always write with your reader in mind. Your instructor may be teaching multiple sections, responding to dozens of emails. Clarity and courtesy go a long way.
These are very good advice to take for email communications, not only with professors, but also you can use these skills in your workplace or with your peers and even with family members, right? Thank you. And then now let's go into our second setting, communication in live settings. And these could be on-ground classes, online Zoom classes, and office hours conducted either on ground or via Zoom meetings. So let's look at our third scenario. For example, I'm a student, I have some difficulty understanding a assignment's instructions, or I just cannot understand how to do a difficult problem. I want to ask my professor in her office hours, and how can I make the most out of this?
So look at this scenario where a student walks in 5 minutes before the office hour ends and is still looking at their phone. And they're saying, hey, I know it's almost over, but I'm really confused about the homework. I didn't really look at it until today, and I don't even know where to start. Can you just go over this thing with me? I'm completely lost. So, my take at it. First, the student walks in 5 minutes before the office hour ends. That immediately limits how much meaningful help I can provide you. Second, notice the lack of preparation. The student admits they haven't really looked at the assignment and asks to go over the whole thing. Now, that's a very broad request and doesn't show effort or specific confusion. Now, let's take a look at how this situation can be handled in a more productive way.
Okay.
Okay, I get to take the good one here again. So let's look at what a prepared and focused office hour might look like. So notice that the student arrives 10 minutes into the office hour. So polite timing that shows respect for the professor's schedule without rushing in at the last minute. Listen to how they open the conversation. It says, "Hi, Professor Smith, thanks for seeing me. I'm working on homework 5 and I'm having trouble with questions 2 and 4. Right away, they've been specific. The professor knows exactly which assignment and which questions they need help with. But they don't stop there. The student explains what they've already tried. I tried using the quadratic formula for question 2, but I keep getting the wrong answer. They're showing that they've made an effort and are actively engaged in the material. They're not asking the professor to do the work for them. They're asking for guidance and where the understanding is breaking down. And finally, they ask a very focused question. Can you help me understand what I'm doing wrong? This gives the professor a clear direction for the conversation. They can look at the student's work, identify the mistake, and provide targeted help. So this approach makes the best use of everybody's time and turns office hours into a real learning opportunity. The student will walk away with actual understanding and not just an answer.
Very good. Okay. So how about some key takeaway messages for live communications?
Well, I will take the first few here. So first, be prepared. Don't show up without having thought through what you need. Know which assignment you're working on, which specific questions are giving you trouble, what you've already tried. This preparation shows respect for everybody's time and ensures you actually get the help that you need. Second, stay attentive and engaged. This means making eye contact, putting your phone away, and actively listening. So if you're disengaged or distracted, you're not really being disrespectful. So you're also going to miss important information and guidance. So be present during the conversation. And then ask questions respectfully. There's no such thing as a stupid question, but there is such a thing as poor timing or an unclear question. So frame your questions thoughtfully, wait for an appropriate moment to ask them, and show appreciation when someone takes time to understand.
All right.
I'll take the next three. I agree with Professor Benigni. Listen actively. Give full attention to your speaker and your class. Be full of time. Respect class and office hours. Whether it's contributing in a class or attending office hours, try to get to your point clearly and efficiently. Next, communicate with clarity and purpose. Know what you need and state it directly. Clear communication reduces confusion and leads to faster solutions. So overall, whether in a class, online, or during office hours, effective communication comes down to preparation, clarity, respect, and engagement.
So well summarized. Thank you, Deepti and Jill. Okay. Now let's look at our third setting, peer-to-peer communication in group projects. Well, group projects are everywhere in workplace, right? This is why we are having group projects in our classes. And it's very common actually to have conflicts in group projects because team members have diverse backgrounds, have diverse schedules and perspectives, and different strengths and weaknesses. So we can take different ways to deal with conflicts. Well, avoidance and passive frustration can only make things worse if you just wait until the end of the project, right? On the other hand, if we can have clear, specific, respectful communications with our team members, it may result in much better outcomes and even better relationships among the team members. So let's look at your perspective first. Here is an open-ended question. You can either click the link in chat or scan this QR code and tell us what is the biggest challenges that you have met in communicating with your peers in group projects. We can give you maybe 1 minute to do this. Okay, I need to submit something um, in order to click on next question. And then I can click on view the results. Okay, we see some input coming in. Not knowing when to speak up when there are issues with another group member. Very good one. When do I come out and talk to that person or talk to other team members? We all have different schedules. Hard to schedule time for group meetings. That is so true. Respecting of other person times or that they are waiting until the last minute. Yeah. Not having the same schedule outside of class. Exactly. Peers not responding quickly enough for a decision to be made. How anxious that could be.
We had a few others come in too. I think having one person not being open to options and opinions. Oh, here we go.
Okay.
Equally dividing the work, and then no response, no planning, members not pulling their weight or meeting deadlines, talking over each other, ignoring feedback. And then I think in the chat we also have social awkwardness and lack of time. So we have some really great responses here.
So I see one group of time management and meeting scheduling. I see team members not taking their responsibilities and do their part, or lack of feedback from team members, right? Okay, so now let's see a real scenario. I believe everybody have encountered this before. A group project deadline is approaching, and student A realizes that student B hasn't done her part yet, and she hasn't communicated with the team. Student A wants to do something. What can she do?
All right, so in this role play, I'm going to play student A, and Deepti will do me the honor of playing student B. As you listen, pay attention to the tone that I'm using, the words that I choose, and what happens to this conversation as a result. So, are you ever going to do your part or what? The deadline is basically tomorrow and you've done nothing.
I've been busy, okay? I said I'd get to it.
We're all busy. You're just being lazy, and now we're probably going to fail because of you.
Wow, if you think that, maybe you should just do it yourself.
Honestly, maybe I will. We clearly can't rely on you anyways. So, I want to be clear, I absolutely would rely on DT to help part of a group project, but this is a great example of what not to do. This approach fails impacts the person instead of focusing on the specific behavior and the impact of the project. Words like lazy or you've done nothing are blaming and accusatory, which almost always guarantee that the other person will get defensive. Notice that there's no talk of what actually can be done before the deadline, and it ends with more less trust, and then the original problem is still not solved. On the next slide, we'll actually look at a more constructive to handle this conversation using a structure that you can use in your own group projects called observe, impact, and solution. So this time, listen for how I observe what's happening, how we talk about the impact on the project, and how we work solution instead of continuing an argument. Hey, can we talk about your group project for a minute? I've noticed you're not in the shared document yet, and our deadline is tomorrow.
Yeah, I know. I have been overwhelmed and I'm behind.
Thanks for letting me know. I was just a little worried because we need your section for the whole project to make sense. What's like for you to finish today?
I can finish the first half tonight, but I'll need some help for the last bit.
Okay, that's helpful. How about you draft your first half by 8 o'clock, and then I'll review it and help outline the last section so that you're not starting from scratch.
That works. I'll start my after class and put my draft to the document by 8 p.m.
Excellent. All right, so compared to the first version, this conversation feels very different. Here, student A describes the problem specifically and calmly. I've observed that the work isn't in the shared document, the deadline's tomorrow, without name calling or making assumptions about behavior or character. I've acknowledged student B's situation instead of ignoring it and on how the missing section impacts the process. project, excuse me. And then finally, I've asked what's realistic for them, and then work towards a much more collaborative resolution. So instead of blaming and setting up defense, the conversation ends with a solution that everyone agrees on.
I am really happy to see this conflict resolved in your team. These are two very good examples. It's very easy for people to go in and blame the other instead of focusing on what is happening, what can we do to make a solution out of the project. So thank you so much for showing these two great examples. Mm-hmm. Now, would you like to share some key takeaway messages for group project communication?
Sure. And for this, I'd actually like to zoom out a little bit into what group projects are actually preparing you for. First, their practice for professional team. In almost any job, your success depends on other people. That means you're waiting for other people to follow through, help you meet deadlines, and to communicate clearly. Group assignments in school are actually a low-stakes space for you to practice negotiating roles, managing timelines, and talking honestly when things go wrong. It might not feel that serious in the moment, but the habits that you build here, like showing up and sharing information and resolving conflict, are the same habits that show up later in professional environments and in your performance reviews at work. Next, address issues early and directly. Small problems almost always get bigger when we ignore them, especially as deadlines get close. Bringing something up clearly gives your teammate a fair chance to course correct and shows that you group success. And keep in mind that direct doesn't mean harsh. It just means being clear about what you're noticing and what the group needs instead of silently hoping that it fixes itself. Third, focus on behaviors and outcomes. Personalities. It's a lot easier for someone to respond to the slides aren't uploaded on time to you're irresponsible, right? When you hear direct or when you describe specific behaviors, you keep the conversation grounded in fact instead of attacking the person. And when you connect those behaviors to outcomes like your grade or the extra work that someone do, it becomes much easier for everyone to agree on what needs to change. And then respectful disagreement strengthens teams when it's done well. Remember that disagreement isn't automatically a sign that your group is failing. Often it means that people are actually thinking critically, and this is a good thing. When you challenge ideas, you almost always end up with a stronger final product. Phrases like, I see it differently, can you explain why? Or another option are small language shifts that make a big difference. And they're exactly the type of skills that you'll use in future meetings and projects and even leadership roles.
Thank you very much, Renee. I would like to also add that for the one type of challenge we meet in a group project is scheduling meetings with the whole team. So I would suggest that we start as early as possible. At the moment that a team is built, let's come together and schedule some weekly meetings or even multiple meetings within a week so that we ensure we all give this group work a priority. If you try to schedule a meeting when the deadline is approaching, like tomorrow or 2 days after, it will be very hard. Secondly, it is very important for all the team members to respect the scheduled meeting schedule and give the project a priority. Of course, we will see people who have other priorities and overwhelmed, like what Deepti demonstrated. Then the respectful, good communication skills will kick in. Okay. All right, now let's talk about our fourth setting, which is asynchronous discussions in online classes. Many of you probably are taking online asynchronous classes now, and one of the requirements of these classes is to make substantive contributions to the discussion boards. And how can we do that? So our fifth scenario is that on a discussion board, student A needs to respond to student B's original post. However, A struggles to add anything beyond I agree or good point. As a professor, I see that a lot too. So how can we break through that and make meaningful contributions to discussion boards?
So this is me again. And on this slide, we're shifting communication to online discussion boards. And I think a really common challenge is how do you respond to a classmate when you do agree with them, but you don't know what else to say? This is a simple example of what that often looks like, right? On the surface, it sounds polite and positive, but it actually misses the mark in several important ways. First, it doesn't really add substance, right? Saying I agree and good points is very vague, and we still don't know what is being agreed with or which points are being, or which points we think are strong. Next, it shows no engagement with the course content. There's no mention of readings, lectures, or specific concepts. So the instructor can't see any evidence that you as the writer have connected the discussion to the material that you're learning. It also misses critical thinking. This response doesn't really extend the idea or question it or apply it to a new example. It doesn't move the conversation forward in any way, actually. So there's nothing for anyone to build on, and the thread tends to die there. And finally, it may not even meet assignment criteria. Many instructors ask for substantive replies of a certain length or that they include evidence or connections to the course. So a short generic comment like this is unlikely to earn credit even if the sentiment is positive.
Okay, so now let's see a good example.
Yeah, so this is a much stronger response in the same scenario, right? Without reading the entire example here, this is a good display of what we like to see as acknowledge, add, and ask structure, which you can use this formula for essentially any discussion board post reply. For the acknowledge piece, we're looking at thanks for your post. I especially liked how you explained X as a main cause of Y. This shows that you actually read and valued the contribution by acknowledging what was posted. Add, that made me think about Z from this week's reading, or I'll add that considering A and B helps explain ... These statements, with these statements, you're bringing in course content and you're offering a new perspective. And then finally ask, how do you see A fitting with your example? This is a specific question that invites the student to respond and actually keeps the conversation going. So why does this work so much better? It shows that you understood and valued the original post, which builds respect with your peers. It demonstrates learning and critical thinking by connecting the readings and adding your own analysis, and it moves the discussion forward with a focused question that invites real dialogue. Most importantly, I think it gives your instructor clear evidence of engagement that aligns with what they're grading for.
That's a very good structure to use, acknowledge, add, and ask, right? I also see a comment from text from chat providing examples when you agree with them. That's a great strategy to use. Okay. Now let's look at a scenario where student A doesn't agree with student B. How can A contribute meaningfully to the discussion board?
So this is a trickier situation, unfortunately, and I think that this is often what it looks like when students do disagree with each other. This response fails in several ways. First, it's attacking the person, not the idea. Phrases like it doesn't make sense or did you even read feel personal and more direct at the individual rather than focused on the argument itself. It uses a dismissive tone which shuts down any possibility of dialogue, and it's not inviting discussion. Instead, it's telling the student that they're wrong and that everyone else will think so too. There's no evidence or reasoning behind the disagreement. It is pure judgment with nothing to back it up, no reference to the article, no counterexample, and no explanation of why they might see it differently. And finally, this kind of post makes it very hard for a student to respond productively. It could feel like an insult rather than an invitation to discuss, so they're likely to either ignore it, become defensive, or completely disengage from the conversation completely. And the result, unfortunately, no learning happens for anyone.
That's true.
And then here is a much stronger response to the same disagreement scenario, and it follows a simple but powerful structure called acknowledge, explain, invite, which works beautifully for respectful disagreement. Acknowledge, in this instance, thanks for sharing your perspective. I see it differently, especially your point that X, and so on. Right away, this is starting the conversation more positively by recognizing the value in the post before introducing a different point of view. Explain, in this context, they point to specific course material, such as the article and the page. And they clearly explain why they disagree using evidence instead of judgment. And then invite, how do you see Z fitting here? And do you think it could change the way we understand the case? These questions invite the student to respond and keeps the conversation collaborative. Why is this much more effective? A response like this shows respectful disagreement by appreciating their contribution first, and it then grounds the counterpoint in evidence and course content, which is exactly what instructors look for. It focuses on the idea, not the person, keeping things professional and safe for everyone. And it ends with a question that invites dialogue, turning a potential conflict into an opportunity for everyone to learn more.
This is such a good example. Thank you, Renee. And now let me ask this sensitive question again. So, can students use AI to help them drafting their responses to discussion questions?
Yes, with some parameters, I believe. First, always follow your instructor's specific guidance. Check your syllabus or assignment instructions and see exactly what type of AI use is permitted or prohibited in the course. Next, I think you can use AI to locate articles, definitions, or examples. Essentially, treat AI like a smarter search point. Ask it for key terms, basic definitions, or example scenarios, and then go verify those ideas in a book or a library database. It can help you brainstorm angles or topic concepts that you've already seen in class, but you should still be doing the work. You need to decide what actually fits into the argument. Think of AI as a support for finding and clarifying information, but not a replacement for reading or thinking about the material yourself. On the flip side, do not use AI to write your discussion responses in whole. Discussion board structure measures your own thinking and your voice. So pasting an AI written paragraph is essentially misrepresenting who did the work. When you let AI do the writing, you actually skip the practice of organizing ideas and using evidence and responding to classmates, which is exactly the skills that the assignment are designed to build. If your course allows some AI use, be transparent about it. Add a quick note like I used ChatGPT to help brainstorm possible counter arguments, and I wrote this response myself. Remember, that type of honesty builds trust. And then finally, use AI to get feedback, not to complete your work. You can paste a draft of what you wrote and ask for suggestions on clarity or structure, but then decide the changes to accept. You should always stay the author, and remember, AI is just a tool to help you polish your own work.
Very good points, Renee. I really like the fact that you mentioned when you use AI to locate some articles or examples, go to the library or go to the original source to verify that that is the truth or the fact, because AI can create fake resources and give you fake information, and we as a human being need to do the study, do the writing, do the verification by ourselves. Because we are responsible for our own work. Okay. What are some key takeaway messages for discussion board contributions?
Well, I think that first, these are habits that make you stand out and actually help you learn more. I agree it's a starting point, not a response. And we all say it because it feels polite, but it doesn't show that you've actually understood or thought about the original post. So use that as a launching pad. Say what you agree with, why it resonates, and then connect it to something new. And remember, instructors see hundreds of those types of generic replies. Your goal is to really stand out by adding real value to that conversation. Academic discussion values reasoning, evidence, and curiosity. Keep in mind that this isn't just a casual chat. It's a chance to practice the kind of thinking professors want to see in the rest of your coursework. Back up your points with specific quotes from points or even real-world examples. Then ask a question to dig deeper. Curiosity shows through follow-up questions and signals that you're engaging with the course, not just checking off a task. Next, respectful disagreement strengthens learning. Disagreement done right is not confrontational. It's how ideas get tested and improved for every class. Start with what you appreciate, explain your evidence-based counterpoint, and then invite their point of view. This turns potential conflict into collaboration. Remember that strong learning communities thrive when people feel safe, and challenging each other thoughtfully leads to safety. And then finally, AI should support your research, not replace thinking. AI shines at surfacing articles or clarifying terms quickly, freeing up to focus on critical analysis and adding your own perspective. But pasting AI skips the learning practice. You're not practicing how to articulate ideas in your own voice, which is the real assignment goal. Check your course syllabus again for institutional policies around AI, but remember, ethical use of AI builds skills, and over-reliance can risk integrity.
Thank you, Renee. Okay, these are our 4 settings of communications for academic success. Now, I would like to invite each of us to give one tip that you guys can take away and use immediately. Jill, would you like to go first? You are muted.
I'm sorry. Here we go. So let's talk about the first bullet point here. So clearly state which class you're in when you're writing emails. Professors often manage multiple courses and hundreds of students. We've mentioned that earlier in the webinar. So providing your section or course name right away helps them get into the right mindset to help you. So be very clear about your specific question or request. And the more precise you are, the faster you can provide a solution.
Thank you. Deepti.
My one immediate tip would be avoid demanding language. Choosing softer words shows respect for other person's time and helps keep communication smooth.
And there will be much higher chance for the other side to consider your request, all right? Okay. Renee.
For me, I think next time you reply in a discussion board or message a group member, use that simple acknowledge, add, ask formula. Acknowledge your point, add your own evidence or perspective, or ask a question to keep the conversation going. I think if you try it once, you'll immediately stand out as being thoughtful and engaged, and it would become second nature pretty quickly.
Good point. And I would like to add that if you're emotional when you write an email, let that email sit for a while, maybe 10 minutes, maybe 1 hour. And then when you come down a little bit, you come back, read it again. You might find many places that you want to revise. You want to make it more concise, more respectful, more professional, and maybe clearer. And then send it out. You will get a much better feedback. Okay. Ashley?
Yes, and I would say really try to evaluate your communication objectively. So imagine you're someone on the outside who's not involved in the situation and think, would someone outside of this situation understand the context, the clarity, and the tone if they were looking at this communication objectively so it can help avoid, some of the pitfalls that we've been discussing over this webinar.
Thank you. All right, now is our Q&A time. So feel free to type your questions in chat, and meanwhile, please click on the link or scan this QR code to finish this very short survey for us.
And we'll put the link in the chat here too.
Okay, thank you. I think in the chat we saw someone, Zoe, mentioning Grammarly as a tool, as an AI assistant for writing.
Yeah, I mean, I think very helpful what some of the other panelists think too. Just, I know Grammarly specifically can give you like an overview of what your tone comes across, just so you know if it's collegiate, if it's positive, and it also, if you use it pretty consistently, gives you an idea of what your general style is when you're writing. So you know that if you're writing an email, this is kind of how I come across. And, I might need to adjust it based on the context of what I'm writing.
Do you have any other questions?
I don't see any other questions in the chat, and if you think of any, please feel free to reach out to any of us as well. After you complete the survey, we'll have your information, and I'll be sending out the certificates over the next few days to make sure that you have those, and we'll be submitting the information that you send as well for the water bottle and the sticker.
Yes, thank you very much.
Yes, thank you, Daniel. He said, can't think of anything. Thank you all. Thank you all for joining.
Thank you for joining us, everyone.
Thank you. Have a great rest of your day.